Nicholas in Norway, you are the final caller to today's show. Welcome, and you're on with Don and Matt.
Hi, I'm hoping I will be less frustrating.
Me too, but I think it'll be easy.
Yeah. So my question is about morality.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching the talk you had with Jordan Peterson back in the day. By the way, great talk. I love how you basically undressed all of his points in front of him.
Thank you.
So I've been talking to my friends about morality, whether or not you can say it's objective or subjective. And I've usually gone with your example of basing it off of subjective grounds, but saying that you have objective rules.
Right. So you can make objective assessments, but the foundation that you're using to, that is ultimately subjective.
Yeah. So that's sort of, because the question I always get back is, well, that still makes the morality subjective. It's
okay.
Just...
If that's their answer and that's the way they want to look at it, that's fine. I tend to use chess as my example. The construction of chess was arbitrary and subjective. Somebody created pieces and created rules and created the rules for the game, and you can play it. But yet now that we're in the game, you can objectively assess whether or not a particular move is weaker or stronger, whether it leads to better outcomes or not. And we don't know for every move. Chess isn't solved. It's the reason why we still have, tournaments and grandmasters. If we're not really doing that for tic-tac-toe. We've solved tic-tac-toe. So it doesn't matter to me that the rules of chess are arbitrary. The thing is, if I'm playing the game of chess and I'm working within those rules, there are still objective assessments that we can make about whether or not a move is stronger. I think that it's directly analogous to the fact that I don't have any say over what the rules of reality are. I don't have any say over what amounts to well-being. But if we're going to play the game of well-being, then there are objective assessments we can make. And if somebody wants to say, well, why should I play the game of well-being? I guess you don't have to, but you are. Every single one of us is, and it's no use pretending that we're not.
Yeah.
And then you can have a more productive conversation about, whether you value that or not, right? It's a different sort of conversation.
Yeah. So just to take the chess analogy a little bit further,
okay,
because we've made stuff like computers like AlphaGo and stuff like that.
Yeah. And Leela Chess Zero is just now kicking ass. I think it beat Stockfish last month too.
Okay. Yeah. Do you think we would be able to make sort of morality assessing computers in that sense?
Yeah, I think that we could certainly do that, because you can start with very, very simple basic principles. And then all you need is data to assess the consequences of your actions and compare them to those goals. The problem is that reality is so complex that I don't know that you could ever have a perfectly robust moral computer. And I would argue that's exactly what our brains are doing. And so the question then becomes, how close can we get computers to calculations and assessments in the way that a human does it, or preferably better than a human does it? And one of the things I saw Google announce, they've reached quantum supremacy. Just in the past month, I think. Quantum supremacy is, within quantum computing, it is the point where the quantum computer can do calculations that standard computers cannot. And so now we have hit that threshold.
I better read up on that.
Yeah, quantum computers can now do calculations that non-quantum computers can't. What that means, and I'm not an expert at all, but it's just an interesting hobby for me. What that means with regard to what kind of AI we might potentially build and how it might be able to assess things, I would at least argue that this gives us the option of having a more robust cost-benefit analysis machine, where oh my gosh, you give it access to the internet, you give it access to everything else, and now all of a sudden it's got a data pool, and it may even be able to come up with moral evaluations that we are completely clueless and and are unable to understand why it would evaluate a particular action as immoral. But the biggest problem is if let's say well, it's kind of difficult to come up with a really good example, but if Don and we took the exact same action, it might turn out that there are two different moral valuations of those two actions because of all of the other things, like stealing a loaf of bread after Katrina. That was probably the most moral thing you could do, but stealing a loaf of bread at another time would evaluate as immoral. So figuring out all the different things that are going on and how this all weaves together may be so complex that no computer and no individual and no thinking being could ever get to an assessment.
When you get into the computing thing, one of the key questions is can you do it in a time when it would be useful?
Yeah. You don't want the Terry. I'm going to miss it. No. The computer, the answer to life, the universe, and everything.
Oh.
It thinks for billions of years and runs this experiment and comes up with an answer at 42, and then they have to build a new computer to figure out what the actual question was and something like that, which is great. Yes, Don's absolutely right. It doesn't matter if there's a computer that can solve chess, let's say, if it takes 17 billion years to do it. That does us no good now.
And the quantum thing is relevant because that might break some barriers there.
Yeah, the quantum supremacy is interesting. But hopefully that at least kind of addressed your questions, because we're now out of time and over time.
Yeah, just one quick
sure
ending. Would you be interested in going on the Joe Rogan podcast?
So I get asked this a lot. And I used to say that, the only thing that needs to happen is for Joe to invite me on there. I have reasons for why I don't know that I would actually enjoy that or support that. On the other hand, I'm willing to sit down with almost everybody, and especially, with Joe having a big audience. I think there are things that we could have a conversation about that would benefit all of us and his audience. I think if they contacted me and asked me to do it, as long as we could, come up with a time and a topic that worked out, I'd probably say yes. But I'd have to be doing it with the fan that, or with the knowledge going into it that, I don't regularly listen to Joe. I've heard some things from Joe that I like, and I've heard some things from Joe that I absolutely despise. But I'll sit down and have a conversation with, almost anybody once.
All right. Last final note. I'm going to the United States next summer to visit my girlfriend in Ohio. Mm-hmm. And we've actually been talking about making a trip down to Texas to sit in on one of the shows.
You should probably make sure that your girlfriend in Ohio isn't also my girlfriend in Ohio, because that could get awkward.
And you might want to check the thermometer in Texas too when you come from Norway.
If you guys are coming down, if you guys are going to try to come down to Austin, yes, of course I would recommend it. And the building is open, and you don't have to get tickets for the show or anything like that.
We get a lot of out-of-towners coming, and even from Norway. So
by all means,
be welcome.
Come down and hang out with us.
It would be amazing. You guys have a lovely evening.
Thanks, Nicholas. And on that note, as a reminder, there's going to be dinner stuff here, and the building's open 7 days a week pretty much, and everybody can come down as long as you're atheist or atheist friendly. Thank you to the people who were here today, and the people who support us on Patreon and through the YouTube live chat stuff and all that. And on the other side of that wall are the guys that make our show actually happen. Yay. They're in there. I don't know. Look at the gun show. It's like all of them decided, let me flex and show you how strong I am at the same time. But